Hello everyone. As you can see, we are in the middle of the E7 World Championship China tournament, or the Chinese E7 World Championship tournament, the equivalent to the E7 World Championship for global, but for the newly released China server. If you didn't know, it's starting right now, and it's actually playing at the time of me recording this, and I just wanted to kind of give my thoughts as I'm watching it, what I've seen, initial impressions, and kind of what I think about the whole thing and maybe the future of it, or what we should be doing with it. Now, first things first, let me be clear when I say that more EpicSeven being streamed, played, content being made is always good. More publicity means potentially more revenue, and then more potential collabs, spending on the game, more people working on the game or wanting to create fan art, etc. for the game is always good, and this is no exception. From the streams that I've seen, the production looks fine, it looks up to par and industry standard, and honestly, I'm kind of surprised because something that we saw in the E7 World Championship Global was that a lot of the players were giving jerseys and stuff, but they didn't get it in time or they got it really late. But this time around for China, they all have photos of them wearing it, or they already have like player photos and all that stuff. And I know me being impressed by this is kind of like, dude, how low is your bar set right now? But like, if you looked at the last E7 World Championship, there were people in like random settings, there was stuff in the background, and there was other just random miscellaneous stuff that made the whole thing feel a bit unprofessional or very casual, un-esportsy, very unprofessional. By contrast, the overall planning, the transitions, and for the most part, the production or like the UI and stuff of this tournament so far has looked pretty decent, if not like just again up to industry standard. And for me, being able to recommend the streams or watching the streams without trying to explain 100 things as to why things are not looking right or why it looks very goofy or anything like that is a huge plus. I'll end all the blabbering and all that stuff by saying that this is an extremely interesting time when it comes to E7. There's a lot of hype updates being announced, there's a lot of features that are being teased, and honestly, having more things to watch or be entertained by, i.e. this E7 World Championship for China, is just another thing that, in my opinion, will make people more immersed, invested in the overall culture of EpicSeven. Now, obviously, with all the drama, the controversy, the 7-star awakening potential and all that stuff, there's a lot of sparks and heat flying around when it comes to EpicSeven. However, again, with all these things going on, it kind of creates a culture that people are kind of forced to look at, pay attention to, keep up to date with, and I think that's very good for the game. I don't mean that the imprint thing is good for the game, by the way, because side note, I don't think that's very good. But anyways, I do want to address a couple things that I think they could have done to either boost the awareness or the caring of the Western audience or the global audience for this China event, or at the very least give some tips. And I do understand that the event isn't even entirely over, but I hope that they change or care a little bit about the way that this is perceived for the West, because E7 isn't really supposed to be a game that's divided. We're all a big community. Everyone hopefully enjoys watching E7 to some extent, regardless of the region. Now, as I mentioned before, the E7 World Championship for Global just happened recently. It was a pretty big success. There was a lot of great moments. There was good skins. There was good rewards. Everything in between, I think, was pretty enjoyable. There weren't too many hiccups when it came to the overall planning or scheduling of things. But the elephant in the room when it comes to the Global E7 World Championship and the Chinese E7 World Championship is obviously that it's weird for a region to have its own E7 World Championship when everyone else gets lumped into a global World Championship. Now, before I get too deep on that topic, I do think that there should have been a bit more advertising for people wanting to watch it. Maybe in-game announcements saying, hey guys, the World Championship is going to be happening, and here's the people that you'll be able to watch, stream it, etc. Or even on something like YouTube, like maybe a YouTube video describing what the event is going to be, maybe finding out who the players are going to be, see how far the E7 China players have gotten, see what their units or what they kind of look like we're doing, highlights, anything, kind of like a highlight reel of China server to get excited for it. But in all seriousness, the thing that we do have to address is that China is going to be the biggest, if not tied for the biggest server when it comes to E7. So the fact that there isn't any current content being made between content creators, companies, production teams, community managers, etc., all of that kind of lands us in a weird spot where I expected there to be more announcements or hype around the E7 World Championship, the way that the global one received a lot of announcements and advertisements for it. But ultimately, for this E7 World Championship, I saw like a couple stream titles, and I definitely saw nothing on YouTube regarding it starting or even when it was supposed to start. Now, another thing that I consider to be a bit unfortunate is that we don't actually know if the E7 World Championship for China is going to stay like this, like its own format. As you can tell, they have like all the schedule stuff, looks really professional. And the prize pool, if I recall, is the equivalent to 55,000 USD, which is equal to, if not higher than, what I believe the E7 Global winner received. So the important question now is, are they going to stay separate? Are they not? who knows? But something that I think a lot of you have probably picked up on and are kind of expecting is that E7 in China already has censorship, and that's likely why they have a separate tournament. However, for the China server to never be able to play with the E7 Global in Asia and Japan feels a bit unfortunate, because we're basically isolating one of the audiences from the rest of the world. Now, again, I consider this to be a bit of a con because, again, this is great content, or this is kind of interesting content. There's more E7 being played. There's more events that could potentially come out of China, and there's, at least right now, no global content or no efforts for the West to make like produced or more professional, sophisticated content for the China server. And I'm sure that maybe they're not going to do the same for the E7 global server, but I'm sure that people that were initially interested in E7 from China saw the stuff in global, or saw the E7 World Championship global tournament, and were thinking to themselves like, wow, this looks really cool, or wow, that's really great. And furthermore, some of the players that were literally in the E7 World Championship from past years are now playing in the Chinese E7 World Championship. So I hope there is something to bridge the two servers, or to bridge China back to the rest of the world, because ultimately losing out on potential viewership or an audience, a community, etc. kind of sucks. But finally, something that I think we do need to talk about before we get too far into pros versus cons is, should there even be tournaments like this? Does it matter? Are people interested in it? And this one, unfortunately, I don't have the answer to, and I'm sure most of you guys don't. However, this is where I'd encourage you guys to either ask people around you, or to comment, or anything in between. Let me know if you think that this sort of tournament or this PvP kind of content is something you guys are interested in. Are you just interested in pulling for waifus? I have no idea, but it's kind of important to keep track of what people care about when it comes to E7, so we can make content around it. Now, some of you guys will probably be referencing the high viewership on YouTube, Twitch, etc. But as you guys know, there's a bit of manipulation at times. Like sometimes we're on the front page because like we have like a boost or something like that, and sometimes viewership is kind of fluctuating. We don't really know how much people care, or how much people are just going to be there for the drops. So ultimately, I have to ask you guys as the audience, and anyone that you know around you, or the other people that you see on any forum, like, do you guys actually care about this sort of tournament? Is it worth investing in? Is it worth looking at? Is it worth creating more? Will people watch? More tournaments do bring more publicity, and ultimately there isn't anything else to watch, or there isn't that much going on in between patch updates and stuff like that. So it is kind of interesting to find something to gap the time or pass the time when it comes to watching E7 content. But this does kind of force people to kind of care about PvP, because otherwise, why would you watch a PvP tournament that just doesn't really do anything else for you after the 15 minutes worth of drops that you get? And to that point, the audience for RTA is much smaller than I'm sure the actual overall player base when it comes to E7. So I'm not sure if it's even worth it. I'm not sure what you think, if it is worth it, if it isn't. Who knows? But long story short, guys, I think that this is obviously a positive change for E7, or I'm happy that they're doing content like this, because it's a new server. It shows that they're not slowing down. They didn't just milk us with all the events. They want to kind of create an ecosystem. They want people to care about E7, even in China after the initial couple months. But that's going to be it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like, comment, turn on the notification bell, subscribe. Let me know what you think about content when it comes to the E7 World Championship from China. If you think we should be doing more content with them, if you think there should be more coverage between, I don't know, videos, streams, etc. Make sure to check out the rest of my content on all my other social platforms. Thank you so much, guys. I'll see you all in the next one, though. Adios.